I know that as we stand right now, Joe Biden is down in New Hampshire. What? So because he's down in a state he should win, surely Joe Biden is rushing over there to New Hampshire to do a couple campaign events and poop his pants on stage and then go back home, right? But no, they are sending one Gavin Newsom to New Hampshire. It's odd. Joining me now, one Julie Hamill. I love that she's an attorney with the California Policy Center, but I love more that she is on her school board, as we all should be. Julie, I would have sworn that slick-haired freak was the governor of California. What's he doing back east?
That's a great question, and it's a great description, unfortunately. My sense of why they're trotting out Gavin Newsom right now is because he is a slick talker. He is talented at acting and selling stories. If anyone took a look at his actual record and what he has done to the state of California and to families like mine, they would run for the hills. But to me, this is all about image, selling a message. Joe Biden obviously is incapable of selling the Democrat message to anyone at this point. And so they need somebody out there who can get in front of cameras, talk to people, and sell a story. So that is what he's doing.
Okay, Julie, before we go any further with that loser, tell us how it's been in California underneath his guidance.
Well, someone put it in a very, I can't remember who said this, but they said California is such a beautiful state with so many natural resources. It has all of these things. You actually have to try to ruin California and to send people out in such mass that we ran out of U-Hauls at one point. Like, you could not get a U-Haul to leave California because so many people were leaving. And for me, before 2020, I knew that California politics were a little bit crazy, but I wasn't really involved. But then in 2020, it came for my family, and it really harmed my children, who were very young at the time. I had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old when COVID started. And, they were kept out of school. I could not work. I could not earn an income. I was constantly trying to talk to my elected officials. No one would talk to me. No one would take my calls. I had my county supervisor had her animal control deputy respond to me. Yes, true story. But Gavin Newsom, he is the leader of our state. He put in place a state of emergency that he held on to for, I believe, over 3 years, well after there was no longer an emergency or a crisis. And when I first knew that all of these decisions that were harming my family were all politically motivated was when I tried to get my kids back into school. And I was trying to advocate to see if maybe we could reclassify the lower grades in elementary as a childcare center, because under Gavin Newsom's rules, you could send a kid to a school building to watch Zoom under the supervision of a childcare provider, but you could not send your child to that same building to be taught by a teacher. And the only difference between a childcare provider and a teacher is the union. There's no risk difference for COVID. It's union politics. Union politics drove that decision. And I knew at that moment, this is a man who cannot be trusted. He is not making decisions that are in the best interest of his constituents and people like me. He's laughing in our faces. He's going to the French Laundry. He's going to the NFL games. He went to the Super Bowl. He's not wearing a mask when my kids are being forcibly masked for 8 hours a day. That outdoor mask mandate went on through 2022. I could go on and on for hours, but I'll stop there.
That how you ended up on a school board, Julie?
Pretty much. So in February of 2022 is when I sort of lost my mind. I stopped being this private citizen, trying to just take care of my own family, because I realized nobody was coming to save us. Nobody was on my school board. We had one person who was trying to help and speak out, but the vast majority of the board was not listening. They didn't care that their policies were harming children. And in February of 2022, we had the NFL championship in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. And at that time, we had this outdoor mask mandate, and they were about to have the Super Bowl at SoFi. And a bunch of us got together and we had a press conference outside of SoFi Stadium. And we were saying, basically, if COVID is so dangerous that you have to mask toddlers for 8 hours a day, then how can you justify bringing 70,000 people into SoFi Stadium to watch the Super Bowl? I think the difference was, these are all rich, wealthy people who they never really had to abide by mandates and ridiculous policies that were implemented by our government. That's why they were allowed to get away with it. Also, there was no need for an outdoor mask mandate ever. But getting back to the school board issue, it was around that time where it was very clear to me that nobody was going to save my kids or my family or my schools. And so I decided to run for the school board. And I started speaking out very vocally on Twitter about things that were considered controversial, but were just common sense, rational points of view. I had been to Florida for a bachelorette party in the fall of 2021. And I saw people living normal lives. They were going to clubs, they were going to businesses, everything was open, and people weren't dying en masse. And then I came back to LA, and it was a complete 180, a complete contrast. And all I wanted to do was restore normalcy and get my kids back into school and live a normal life where I could work and earn an income and just be a free human being.
How about that? I'm glad you did it. I'm not glad you did a bachelorette party because there's nothing more annoying in the world than a bachelorette party. But I am glad you ran for school board, that is for sure. Tell me about Prop 47. What is it?
So Prop 47 went into effect, I believe, in 2016 or 2014. But it does a number of things that we can consider soft on crime. It was a Soros-backed measure. And one of the things it did was it said, okay, if you steal things from a store, but the value is less than $950, this is a misdemeanor, and we're not going to charge it as a felony. And as a result, we have had a massive uptake in retail crime that law enforcement has admitted they can't do anything about it. And you combine Prop 47 with the reclassification of felonies as misdemeanors, with people like George Gascon, who is the Soros-backed DA in Los Angeles County. And when Soros took office, he announced a policy where he said, I'm not going to charge any juveniles with a misdemeanor. So when you combine that with Prop 47, this means it's absolute free reign for kids, for troubled teens, to steal whatever they want from the mall, from local shops, from jewelry stores. And that's been happening. That has been happening. So in California, a group of citizens got together to create a citizen-backed initiative to overturn Prop 47 and to restore basically tough on crime policies, including holding fentanyl dealers responsible for the thousands of deaths that they have caused in our state. The Democrats like to pretend that California is safe, San Francisco isn't dangerous, these cities are thriving. It is an absolute disgusting mess. It is so sad to go walk around the streets of downtown LA and the streets of San Francisco and see people suffering. And all of these things really can be attributed to soft on crime policies, this housing first approach to homelessness, where they're not requiring people to get treatment for drug addiction or mental health problems. And this sort of end Prop 47 reform measure that the citizens had qualified for the ballot is going to address a lot of these issues. But as you may have heard, our governor, for a reason that I cannot understand and he has not articulated, has decided that he doesn't want this citizen reform of Prop 47. And so right now he is maneuvering with our state legislature to try and put something to compete with it on the ballot in November. And in so doing, he has violated constitutional principles, rules of procedure, statutory rules. He's sort of just discarding all of this process in order to get his way because he does not want the citizens to end Prop 47.